Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, an update on all the reading projects I'm currently failing at. Maybe I'm being a bit hard on myself in that intro, but I don't feel like I'm doing nearly as well on the 4 reading challenges I'm doing at the moment as I would have liked to have done. And maybe the problem here is that I've got 4 reading challenges on the go. Maybe that's just too many. But I thought I'd use this video to give an update on all 4 of them, just to remind you of what they are and tell you what kind of progress I'm making. So let me start by just recapping what those 4 are. So the first one, and this is the one that actually is going really well so far, is the Buddy Reading with My Dad project. And that's where my dad and I are reading one a month, his 12 favourite books. And I think because I've got a buddy on that one, it makes it much easier to stick to it. And I'm really enjoying it so far. So I'll give a bit of an update on progress on that in a little bit. The second one then is the My Novel Life Challenge. And this is a challenge that was created by the author Mark Hodder, where you read a book from every year you've been alive in chronological order. It has to be a novel, you can't repeat authors, and it should be a book you haven't read before. And that's something I've failed at in my planning for it. I haven't actually failed yet in the execution. So I'll talk a bit about that one as well. And then the other 2 projects are ones where I am completing reading the books by my 2 favourite authors, Stephen King and Evan Hunter / Ed McBain. So the Stephen King project I'm actually doing reasonably well on, but I haven't got through it nearly as quickly as I would have liked to have done. The Hunter project, there's a lot more to go because he wrote more books and there are fewer of them that I have read. So let me go back to the beginning again and give you an update on how I'm doing on each of those 4. So the Buddy Reading with My Dad project, as I say, going really, really well, really enjoying it. It's one a month, so we are in April, and I've read April's book, which was Challenge by Warwick Collins, and I enjoyed it very much. So here is Challenge, and I'll be doing a review video soon where I talk about this. This is a book about a yacht race between the USSR and the USA. And it's been really fun doing it so far. It's been fun comparing notes with my dad, and I've enjoyed all of the books to kind of varying degrees. The 2 Neville Shute books we've read so far, I really, really loved. The other 2 books I both liked. Our book for May is more of the kind of book I associate with my dad, so like an espionage type thriller. So it's The Dancing Men by Duncan Kyle. I don't think I've ever read any Duncan Kyle books. I definitely remember seeing many copies of his books on my dad's shelves when I was growing up, but I'm pretty sure I've never actually read one. So looking forward to this, which is about a president, and I don't know. I think it's about someone who's going to become president. And there's some sort of mystery about his past. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. So yeah, the Buddy Reading with My Dad project, definitely the most successful of the 4 so far. Moving on then to the My Novel Life project. So I did a video a little while ago where I talked about the books I was planning to read for the 1980s. And Mark Hodder, who created the challenge, pointed out that I'd got it wrong. I wasn't obeying one of the rules of the challenge. So as I said a little earlier, one of the rules is these should be books that you haven't read before. And I had a bunch of rereads in that list. Now, I was really, really pleased with that list. I thought I had a really great list of like books from the 80s, books that were representative of like Western popular culture in the 80s. And I stand by that comment, but I think on 5 or 6 of the books, they were books I'd read before. So I'm going to change my list up. And the My Novel Life Challenge, I'm enjoying very much so far. So I am 51 years old, so I will need to read 51 books for it. Now I'm doing one a month, so I'm actually probably going to have to read, I guess, 53 or 54 books for it by the time I finish it. But the idea, as I said, is to read chronologically through your life a novel from each year. So I started in 1973, enjoyed the 70s, and I'm enjoying the 80s so far. So far for the 80s, I have read, what have I read? I'm going to have to double check my list. So I've read Mockingbird by Walter Tevis, which was fantastic, and which I recommended to my dad actually. He's now read it and he really enjoyed it as well. And then Gorky Park by Martin Cruz Smith for 1981, which was a book I had owned previously but never actually read. I'm now into 1982, and I'm reading the book for 1982, which is Fever Dream by George R.R. Martin, which again is a book I had owned previously, but never got around to reading, and it's really great. A really fantastic historical vampire novel. It's got Martin's like trademark fantastic character work. I'm enjoying it very much, and there will be a review of that going up on the channel fairly soon. But it's after 1982 that we start getting into problems. So let me read you through the list of books I had for 1983 onwards, all of which I had read before, up until I think the 1989 book I hadn't read before, but all the rest I had. So for 1983, I had Pet Sematary by Stephen King. For 1984, I had The Hunt for Red October by Tom Clancy. For 85, I had Perfume by Patrick Suskind. For 86, I had The Light at the End by John Skipp and Craig Spector. For 1987, The Black Dahlia by James Ellroy. And for 1988, The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. So all fantastic books, but all ones I've read before, but not for quite a while. So I have come up with a revised list for those years, but I am still going to read the books I said I was going to read, because all of them I'm really, really looking forward to rereading. So I don't want to give up on the opportunity to reread them. So for the next few months, for the My Novel Life Challenge, I'm going to read 2 books. I'm going to read the one I'd originally picked and another one. And I think that the new list I've come up with, which maybe isn't quite as much of a 80s blockbuster list, is still a list of books that I think is quite representative of the 80s. So for 1983, I've got Double Love by Francine Pascal, which is the first of the Sweet Valley High books. So you may know, if you watch the channel, I've read a few of the Sweet Valley High books recently and really enjoyed them. So I'm going to go back to the very first one and read that. For 1984 is an author who I read back probably. I think I probably first read a book by him in 1983. He is the author who I consider to be the first adult author that I read. Now, I had read some novelisations before then, which probably count as like books for grown-ups, like the Star Wars novelisation. And I think I probably read at least the first of the Hitchhiker's Guide books by Douglas Adams. But Dick Francis, who's the author I'm going to read for 1984, I can't now remember which of his books it was that I read, but my dad was a big fan, and he recommended him as a thriller writer that kind of 10, 11-year-old me might enjoy. And I did indeed enjoy him. And I've read a few more of his books over the years, but not a huge number. So for 1984, I'm going to read Proof by Dick Francis. And he's an author, if you don't know, he was a very famous and successful jockey here in the UK, and ended up, after retiring from racing, having a career writing thrillers, like kind of crime-style stories set in and around the world of racing. And a few people have mentioned him in the comments on videos recently, actually, saying, have I read any of his books? So really looking forward to reading some more Dick Francis. For 1985 then, I've actually got a copy of it here, so let me show it to you. An author who's, I think, quite representative of horror in the 80s. Maybe not as representative as Stephen King, but definitely one of those authors who was really popular in the 80s, whose books you don't really hear about so much anymore. And I read one of his books, The Blackstone Chronicles, recently as a buddy read with one of my patrons, and really, really enjoyed it. It was definitely quite trashy, but fun too. So for 1985, my new book for the list is going to be Brainchild by John Saul. So yeah, really looking forward to this. I think he feels to me a bit like there's something kind of a similar trashiness to the trashiness that V.C. Andrews' books have, a kind of slightly overblown melodrama to his books, which is something I really enjoy. So yeah, looking forward to trying that one. And then for 1986, a YA horror author, I think she's YA, I don't know if this one's YA or adult actually, but who loads of people rave about, and I think I've only read one book by her. But yeah, looking forward to trying another one. So this is Wait and See by Ruby Jean Jensen. So one of those kind of paperbacks from hell style authors from the 80s. From 1987 then, I've got a book by an author who I've only read one book by. And I probably read this book around 1987, certainly when I was in my teens. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And for some reason, I've never read anything else by this author. So the author is Tim Powers. The book I read back then was The Anubis Gates, which is a fantastic kind of time travel book. The one I'm going to read now is On Stranger Tides, which is I think a kind of fantastical pirate book, which ended up being adapted into one of the later films in the Pirates of the Caribbean series. So they stole the plot from Tim Powers' book and made it include Jack Sparrow. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what that's like. It's a long time since I've read a pirate book, and clearly a long time since I've read a Tim Powers book. So yeah, looking forward to trying that one. And then for 1988, you'll remember I did have The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris picked, which I will still reread if I can speak. I've got something which was a similar kind of blockbuster, but probably could not be more different, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's Rivals by Gilly Cooper, the second of her Rutshire Chronicles books. So this is the sequel to Riders, which I read a couple of years ago and thought was just an absolute hoot. So this is a what we call over here in the UK a blockbuster, so a huge, like, I think it's about 700 or 800 pages long book with loads of sex, loads of drama, loads of intrigue, set around the world of show jumping. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. So that's my revised list for the 1980s period of the My Novel Life Challenge, to make sure I'm properly complying with the rules. So that brings us then to the Stephen King challenge. So I'm actually reading a book for that at the moment. I've just started listening to the audiobook of Gwendy's Final Task by Stephen King and Richard Chismar, which I think about a third of the way through and quite enjoying so far. So I had, when I started the King challenge, I had 11 books that I needed to read for it. Now, since I started it, he published another one, which I have read. So that was You Like It Darker. And he's got another one coming out at the end of May. So the new Holly Gibney book, which is called Never Flinch, comes out at the end of May. So I'm intending to read that one in May when it comes out. So aside from that then, I've got 3 more books. So when I finish the Gwendy book, I will have 3 more books, and then Never Flinch when it comes out. So those are Lisa's Story, Dew McKee. Now, Dew McKee, I did try to read a few months ago, and I just wasn't feeling it for some reason. So I definitely need to read that one. And then also his Mammoth Fairy Tale, which is, how long is this? Oh, actually, it's not that bad. Less than 600 pages. But yeah, his fairly new fantasy novel, which I was gifted by my parents, I think, a hardcover copy of when it came out, and still haven't got around to reading. So I could have saved myself some shelf space and just picked up the paperback. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what this one's all about. And then beyond that then, so that's the King challenge. So I should get that finished. I'm going to try from now on for each of these challenges and make sure I religiously do 1 book a month. So the King one I should finish in the summer, hopefully. The Evan Hunter / N. McBain one will take a lot longer. So there are still 47 books by Hunter McBain that I haven't read yet. So the next one I'm going to read is this one, A Matter of Conviction, published under his legal name, Evan Hunter, rather than the McBain pseudonym. But yeah, there are another 47 that I need to get through. Quite a few of them, like a couple of dozen of them, I think I've got. But there are a load I haven't got, so I'll work through the ones I've got first. So in terms of the books by him I've read since I started that challenge, I was looking back and trying to make sure I remembered all of them. I think I've got all of them. So I read The Chisholms, which was a kind of Western novel about a family kind of, going out to the frontier, so travelling across America, which was not great, but reasonably entertaining. Strangers When We Meet, which was a fairly early Evan Hunter book, which was about, set in New York, about an affair between 2 married people, which was great, had a really, really good ending. The Sentries, which was a kind of more of a thriller, so published on the McBain name, more of a thriller about a group of kind of militia guys who take over a small island. And then Alice in Jeopardy, which was his penultimate book, which was kind of a suspense thriller about a woman whose kids get kidnapped and about her trying to find out who's taken them. And then 3 Blind Mice, which is one of the Matthew Hope series of mysteries. So that's a series of mysteries set in Florida, Matthew Hope being like an attorney. So those are the ones I've read so far for that challenge, but I need to get into the habit of reading one a month or I'm never going to get through that 47. So clearly it's going to take me another 4 years, even going at that pace, to finish it. So a long-term project, but one I think I'm going to relish. So that's an update on the 4 main projects I'm doing at the moment. I need to try and get some of them finished. So clearly the buddy reading with my dad one will finish this year. The Stephen King one should finish this year as well. And I need to make sure, I think, that I don't start any new ones. So if I start talking about starting a new project, remind me that I've said I need to try and limit them so that I get through them at a faster clip. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed that. If you've watched this far in the video, I never say this and I should. If you've watched this far in the video, thank you so much for watching this far. If you're not already subscribed and you enjoy my content, do click the subscribe button and then you'll find it easier to find my videos in the future. And if you fancy seeing even more content from me, you can join up as either a YouTube channel member or a patron. The basic tier, which gives you pretty much everything, is like $3 a month. So you'll get a load of extra content, you get early access to my videos, and you get a kind of 3 or 4 normally extra short videos from me a week, just chatting about what I'm reading that day. Anyway, I will leave it there and say, as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.